Hi everyone, I'm Albane Buriel. I'm a doctoral student at the University of Quebec at Chicoutimi, and I will present you evaluation of arts education in humanitarian emergencies, evidence for practice. So this work is based on some professional experiences and practices, and also different researches as my doctoral thesis. So I will first present you from war to displacement, then the humanitarian field, then arts in humanitarian emergencies, and finally I will present you my thesis proposal before concluding. First, we can say that there are a lot of ongoing conflict, international and non-international. There are also crisis situations which are progressed, and also numerous forced displacements. UNICEF in 2019 told us that there were 34 million children who were affected by conflict and disaster and who do not have access to child protection services, including 6.6 million of children in Yemen, 5.5 million in children in Syria, and 4 million in the DRC, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. About the humanitarian field, there are a lot of things to say, but just to be focused on our subject, I will tell you about those three pillars which are part of our work. The humanitarian field changed a lot those past 10-15 years, and it's more and more professionalized. There is also a big coordination internationally, which by the UN, which is called done by the Office of Coordination for Humanitarian Affairs, and they include pillars of humanitarian aid, including education, protection, and health. For us, it's more about child protection because we work with minors, and also mental health. So the activities in our field of non-formal education and arts and arts resilience and empowerment as part of the humanitarian response. Because those two concepts are important for us in our research, I give you a definition of both. So the resilience, we hear it as resiliencia, so the Latin word, which means to jump back or to bounce back. It refers to the ability of community members to adapt positively and work cohesively towards common goals so that they can overcome a situation of collective suffering. The empowerment refers to reclaiming one's implicit and lost power to act for multiple reasons. It's initially and collectively based from the bottom up to participate to collective and critical awareness by individuals and their conditions, and it aims at the transformation of unequal power relations. What about the arts in humanitarian emergencies? We can say that it's spread everywhere. If you go to a camp or some activities in psychosocial or work with child, or in a lot of different cluster fields, you can see arts. We can make two different groups with two different approaches. So first, in one end, you have the health approaches, which is around therapy through arts and art therapy programs, but also the psychosocial support using arts. And then you have the cultural approach, which includes awareness campaigns through arts and also advocacy using arts, but also the exit from violence and peace building programs. You can have also CEL, socio-emotional learning programs, and non-formal education as education through arts activities. We can say that there is often a confusion between those different programs, objectives, type of jobs, etc. because also it's an emerging field of practice, and you can imagine for the research on it. But there are some researchers who made some research to see what can art bring, how art could be useful in the humanitarian field. It improved well-being of intervention participants. Also, it can make a better effective expression of emotion and thought in a singular way. It can also promote a sense of community from control and structure. It can help also to reaffirm the identity participants and mobilize their hope. It can reduce also the characteristic anxiety symptoms in children's lives. It can also give stronger social emotional skills and improve the verbal and artistic expression and emotional regulation of children. For example, Save the Children developed the art program. So Save the Children is one of the biggest NGO working with children, especially in education. So they have this program since 6 years, and they have supported 300,000 children in 20 countries. The art program distinguishes between different types of programs dedicated to the arts in its educational interventions. So for them, there is first the arts education for the development of psychosocial well-being, the education through creative art-based method to make education more interactive and entertaining in various subjects. And there is also education for fun to create entertaining and engaging activities, and also to introduce the children to local cultures and cultural traditions. About our thesis, we think that the development of this field of art practices in education and emergencies should be improved. There are a lot of things to build, and we need also to collect more data, so we need more research. Also, we can see sometimes that there are some recreational activities and occupational art activities with bricolage to improve resilience and employment. And it's unsatisfactory because they don't meet the objectives. It's just on the paper, but we can see on the ground, they don't have the resources. But we know that not all of arts education activities build resilience or well-being or do have impacts or results in children's life. For that, there are artistic and educational conditions. So the global objective of the thesis is to cooperate with the facilitators of the artistic workshops in order to implement a didactic device aimed at fostering resilience and empowerment of young people they work with in 2 camps in Iraq. So we can also say that the activities are usually meant to be light and detached from the ordinary concern of war-affected participants, whereas they should be heavy with content knowledge. This knowledge is then understood as ideas, affects, percepts, and concepts, as Deleuze wrote, that need to be guided with appropriate tools. It doesn't mean that it's intellectual. It means that it should be meaningful for the participant itself with adapted content, creative process with art. We know the importance to start from the needs of the participant and the perception and expertise of the facilitators by collaborative action research and a cooperative didactic in engineering, because they need for tools and trainings. We wanted to evaluate the traces of resilience and empowerment in the participants, and we observe and analyze the practice of the facilitators through the process of cooperative didactic engineering. About our thesis proposal, it's about the Yazidi people who escaped from ISIS in Sinjar in Iraq. So it was a massive displacement and of course a trauma. There is also a victimhood postures. So We should know that between 2,000 and 5,000 and a half men have been killed. Over 6,000 people have been abducted, and 200,000 people are still displaced. So a study, so my doctoral thesis, was conducted with the NGO, its public aid organization, and the Federation Léo Lagrange, working with young people in camps in northern Iraq, aims at accompanying social cultural animators by designing altogether didactic device based on the artistic biography. So the artistic biography is a concept that we created, but also a didactic device. A device is a set of resources and material and cognitive constraints present in the didactic situation. So it should have the potential to develop resilience. It is aimed at the narration through arts of individuals and collective life experience through the creative process. The theme of the artistic biography are so identity. So it refers to culture that each human being processes and represent individually. The culture is understood as a shared system, shared social system of knowledge, belief, and values of people. It can be at different scales. And finally, the environment, which we can also call the spaces. It refers to all the geographical spaces which is associated with individuals. But it's important to say that every space has social markers. It also works on the representation of people. For the research design, so we worked with a steering committee. So we worked with 2 facilitators, 2 social workers, and 1 psychologist as the team. So it was 5 weeks in the field in Iraq and a follow-up of 6 months that we are doing now. The participants group were teenagers, male and female together. It was mixed group between 13 and 18 years old. So there were 4 groups of around 12 teenagers here each. The place was in 2 camps, Sharia and Renke in Iraq. So about the research process, we used cooperative didactic engineering in main 4 steps. The first step was a training of 4.5 days, and also a preliminary analysis and initial design of what was going on in the field. Then a second step was the implementation and iteration and re-implementation. And also the step 3 was description and evaluation of the process, of the research process, and of course also the activity and project process. And the last step was the production of a guide, of a manual, and the communication spread out. So about this second step of experimentation, it goes as an iterative process. So in the first, we make an experiment of an activity that we created all together. So we do it with the children. It's with a video, so we record everything. And then we work on those videos to see how we can improve some of the elements that we saw, good or not good, and about the thematic, about the way that we're with the children, the production, artwork of the children, etc. Then when we analyze how we can change the things, we redesign an activity form, and then we do another activity, and then we analyze. So it goes 3-4 times, and we change few elements to have a new activity, but we also create indicators that we change. So it's new data, it's also a kind of evaluation before, during, after, and we cross the things. The most important for us is to see how the process, how the educational process, the micro process in the activities can have results on the resilience and the empowerment of children. How could it be improved through different ways, different methods and techniques, different projects on the ground? So I will conclude. So what can be learned from these humanitarian policies and field practices, what I said above, and also the field research ongoing? This is not a lack of resources, but it's a lack of knowledge and a lack of training, or even more, a lack of practices. Also, we should develop evidence-based humanitarian programs in the arts with appropriate new qualitative indicators. We should develop measures of impact on children's well-being with longitudinal studies, but not based on the psychosocial indicators, but with new indicators, again, about arts. We need to create specialist manuals and toolkits for artistic activities to secure professionals, develop structured activities. And also, if we have that, we can have indicators, we can have evaluation. And so if we have evaluation and proof, we can also have more money, extra. So we can also use the content of the curricula of the countries of interventions and existing cultural resources as a basis. I will say a quick word about the opening of our new MOOC with APCV of Portugal and the World Alliance for Art Education. It's called Arts, Armed Conflict and Humanitarian Aid. So it's free and it's until February 2022. Yeah, don't hesitate if you want to know more about all those very passionate fields. So thank you for your attention. And maybe a last word with flowers for this Yazidi learning camp. So we should never give up.